What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Martin Collins Jr. In today's video, we are discussing the MacBook Pro 5, and this is my 90-day review. So let's get into it. So it's been 90 days with this MacBook Pro 5. I'm going to discuss mainly my pros and cons with this base model. I got this computer back in December of 2025. I believe it launched in November of 2025. So I got it a month after it was already out. And I know coming up in March, I believe they're March, April-ish, they're gonna have the Pro and the Max versions that are coming out. So I did make a video prior to this. I did make a video on my first impressions. So if you did want to see that video to kind of get in somewhat of a, close idea as far as how I felt about this particular model, just taking it right out the box, you can view that video. Going 90 days into this particular model, I'm fairly impressed. I can't say that I'm very wowed by having this M5, but it is a good computer to have, especially transitioning from a PC. I did have a gaming laptop, and I was using that to pretty much use all of my work when it comes to videos, photos, etc. And pertaining to the specs that I had with my PC, I had a 16 gig RAM, I had a 512 SSD, and I was running everything off of Windows 11. But for some reason, comparing that to this MacBook Pro 5, I got the same exact specs. And with this being the base model, I ended up getting a 16 and a 16 gig and a 512 SSD. So comparing the two with the PC, comparing to what I have now with the M5, the M5 speed is faster, workflow is a lot easier and better for me. And the reason why it's a lot better for me is because of the ecosystem of me already having Apple products. Literally, if I just need to airdrop any type of files, any type of pictures, videos, music, whatever it may be, I can just transfer it from the computer to the phone to the computer, computer to the laptop, etc., etc. So that's one of the pros that I definitely still enjoy 90 days after having this computer. With having the PC, I had to transfer it over either to my email, or I had to transfer it to an SSD and have that transferred over. It was just a lot of hoopla. Another pro that I can definitely speak on would definitely be how my workflow has processed and actually transitioned a lot quicker by using this MacBook Pro 5. With the M5 chip, it's a lot faster in regards to rendering speeds. So I'm able to render my clips a lot quicker. I'm able to put in the effects that I'm able to put in, and that's able to render a lot quicker as well. I will say the longest I've had time when it comes to like rendering and actually just processing and everything of that nature when it comes to photos and videos, the longest I would say take no more than about 3 to 5 minutes. And that just depends on how large the file is, especially when it comes to the videos, when you're trying to put in effects and graphics and all that. So the longest is roughly took about 3 to 5 minutes, and that's the base model. Now we're actually going to discuss color accuracy when it comes to the M5 90 days later. In regards to the color accuracy, it's phenomenal. It's really different from how I actually see different screens, different monitors, things of that nature. So I would say, and as crazy as it sounds, I actually use the actual laptop for just monitoring and everything like that when it comes to editing, more than I actually use the monitor that I bought for this computer. And I figured that bigger screens is obviously better for everybody, especially when it comes to your workflow, because you're able to see everything. You're able to scribble and actually see where you need to move and how you need to monitor everything. But for some reason, when I was editing photos and I was editing videos, the coloring just seemed off to me. Especially coming out of my camera and just trying to really see how everything's going to look in real time when I'm ready to publish. I was able to change up the display coloring on this monitor, and I was able to get as close as I can to the Apple MacBook Pro. But with the MacBook Pro, in regards to color accuracy, it looks great. So when I'm color grading and I'm actually, you know, editing my videos, I'm able to get accurate colors. So when I'm ready to post on social media or even on YouTube, everything's looking crisp and clean. Everything's looking the way that I need it to look pertaining to my colors. So like my whites are whites, my browns are browns, my blacks are blacks, you know, things of that. Um, so that's super important with the Retina display that they have on these, you know, MacBook Pros. That's to me, that's actually a good, you know, steal for the price that it's at. Another thing that I can speak on pertaining to this would be mainly the battery. Now, I did explain in my first impressions video on how it does give you 24-hour battery life, and I did test that out, and it does last literally a full day. I literally have to charge it like once a day in order to, you know, get the full battery, and it does charge pretty quick too, pertaining to, you know, the battery life as well. So I don't necessarily have to worry about overcharging, you know, the computer. I can literally charge it once, roughly within 30, maybe 35, 40 minutes or so. I get a full charge. Depending on where I'm at, you know, I don't allow the laptop to completely die out. So if I'm like halfway or if I'm like three-quarters of the way till it's about to die, I'll put it on charger, and roughly within 30 to 40 minutes, I have a full charge. So I'm pretty solid and pretty cool about that, and I actually do enjoy that. Um, and also, I would say there is a con to the battery life, but I'll kind of get into that when I go to my cons. But you know, the pros does outweigh the cons pertaining to the battery, so I'll just keep it at that. And I guess one of the last pros that I could kind of mention would be um, the accessibility when it comes to the apps now, and how quickly they load up. With me having the M5, I have there's a spec on there to where we get 10 core GPU and CPU. So I'm not really a nerd when it comes to like the core processes and all that, but from what I know is that I'm able to use multiple, you know, apps. I'm able to open up, you know, Adobe, you know, Premiere Pro, Audition when it comes to the auto recording, Media Encoder, Photoshop, Illustrator. I can use all the Adobe products or the Adobe apps, and they will load up really quick. And I can also go on the internet, browse the websites without needing to browse, and nothing necessarily slows down. I don't have any issues with that. With the PC, when I was using my PC, I would have to close down, you know, at least a couple, you know, browsers. I'll have to close down a couple apps because one app will overpower the whole entire computer to where I'm not able to get everything moving as fast as I need to. But with this MacBook Pro, I necessarily don't have any of those issues. Um, so I would say that's definitely a plus. I can open up Premiere Pro right now and literally it'll open up in seconds. But 10 core GPU and CPU is literally just enough. At least it is for me for the little things that I do. Like I said, I do a lot of photo and video editing. So just by those, just whatever, based on how your workflow is, I feel as, you know, being able to upload or being able to get the right cores that you need when you do purchase your computer, that's super important. But I feel as 10 cores is more than enough. You know, a lot of people don't like using the 8 core or anything like that. So 10 to 12 cores, I feel like that's good. Anything above 12, I feel like it's a little overkill. But again, that really just depends on your style of workflow, editing, etc., etc. So now we are actually going to go into the cons. 90 days later, I don't have a lot of cons, but there are some things that, you know, a couple cons do kind of bother me just a bit, but it's some things that I'm getting used to. It's only been 90 days, so I can't really complain. Um, Now, pertaining to con number one of the things I do not like I said, pertaining to the battery, um, if I am using, you know, an Adobe's app like, you know, Premiere Pro or Photoshop or whatnot, depending on how I'm going about editing my workflow, it does drain the battery a lot to where I have to keep the charger on. And one thing about me is I don't like to overcharge. my products, but that's one of the things that I'm noticing about this computer is that, if it's not on the charger, it's going to drain your battery. Especially, you do still get somewhat of a good, you know, battery life, throughout the time, but you know, you will only get that 24-hour battery span if you're not heavily using, any type of apps that's gonna drain the battery. So if you're just web browsing, doing the basic stuff, web browsing, maybe you're doing like some, Word documents, maybe you're maybe doing a little bit of streaming here or there, you'll get that 24-hour battery life. But when it comes to, your actual workflow, depending on, what you're using, whether it's After Effects, Premiere Pro, whatever it may be, it's gonna drain your battery just a touch, especially if you don't have it on the charger. Um, so you just have to be aware of that, when it comes to, the battery life. If you feel as you need to charge your battery a lot quicker, then I feel as when you do purchase your computer, then it's best to get the bigger wattage when it comes to the battery charger. So I have the 70 because that's the base model, but they did have a 90 watt. So if you want to go with the base model, go for the 90 watt opposed to the 70. You will have to spend a little bit more money pertaining to that, but you get what you pay for. I feel as when it comes to using the shortcuts on the MacBook Pro, if you're transitioning from PC to Mac and you're trying to understand a whole new ecosystem, understanding the shortcuts can be a little frustrating. So I wish there was a way to where at least there was like a tutorial on the computer or something to where you can actually access, how to use the shortcuts, how to do basic things, or how to use the basic tutorials or simple tutorials on how to actually use your MacBook Pro. I look at that as a small con, but a con's a con for me. Another con that I would bring up would be on how long it takes a while for the SD cards. If I have like a SD card or a SSD, if I have anything attached to the computer, I feel as it takes a long time for everything to eject. Usually when you're ejecting a disk or SSD, you would think that it would be pretty quick for everything to kind of like, move on the fly and kind of eject, but it just takes time for some odd reason for this to, eject my SSDs and my SD cards. So I just, you would think of how fast the computer operates when it comes to navigating things and going through apps. You think it would be kind of quick by doing something as simple as ejecting a SSD or SD card, but it does. It just takes a while, which is kind of weird to me. But I would say the last con that I could bring up on this is the portability. Mainly because I do have enough ports on here, but they're all USB-Cs. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's certain like accessories that I have that I connect to the computer that are USBs, and now I have to kind of buy extra accessories just to get the USB port and put everything into the computer. So I feel like that's somewhat of a con because it's like couldn't have just one USB. Everything has to be USB. So I feel like that was a little bit of a letdown. Now that I'm really thinking about it, but it's not too big of a deal. Like it could be way worse, but that's just something that I've noticed pertaining to the portability of this particular computer. There's a lot of things that I kind of wish I would have changed within my purchasing price, but I was just excited of getting a MacBook Pro, and I don't get me wrong, I love this computer, so I'm not saying I regret my buying decision. I just wish that, now that I know what I know 90 days later, I would have actually, did a little bit more research and actually gotten, a little bit more space pertaining to SSD, pertaining to the RAM, pertaining to the adapter on the battery, to where I didn't have to necessarily complain about those particular areas. And I feel as there's certain things that I can still buy to kind of get this to still move the way I need it to move, but now I got to spend extra money. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a quote unquote con, but I just look at it as if I'm gonna put all my money into a machine, that's, you know, close to $2,000, then I feel as I need to get everything that I need to get out of the computer. So when you are purchasing a new MacBook Pro, whether it's the base, the Pro, the Max, whatever it may be, make sure that you are actually looking into the specs. If you don't understand the specs, do your due diligence and actually research everything so you can actually know what you feel as what you need and what you feel as is overkill. Pertaining to, you know, this computer 90 days later, I am still very well pleased. I'm not going back to PC, of course. And yeah, that's really all I got. So yeah, that is the end of this video. If I know this was a somewhat of a longer video than usual, but I kind of want to point everything out pertaining to my pros and cons 90 days later. If you feel as this video was helpful and your buying purchase pertaining to the MacBook Pro, go ahead, leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about the base model, if you do have a base model MacBook Pro. If you are deciding to get, you know, the Pro or the Max versions of this M5, you know, let me know in the comments, and go ahead and also subscribe. I have videos on content creation and photography and videography tips. So if that's something you're into, go ahead and subscribe. We are building a community of creatives, and yeah, I want you guys to join the community. So yeah, I'll go ahead, I'll check with you guys in a little bit, and I'll catch you guys later.